Well, social anarchism or libertarian socialism has both a strategic element, what the strategy is for change, and also it aims at a certain kind of society. So, and the two have to fit together in the sense that the strategy has to be such that it gives us some assurance that it can create the kind of society that we want. So I would define the aim as a self-managed socialism, that is to say where, so the means of production are under the control, under the ownership of the society in general, the community in general, but it's not like in state socialism, or state communism, where the state runs everything. It's rather that the management of the industries is allotted to or subcontracted to, whatever the appropriate term is, to the workers. So workers self-manage the places where they work. But there needs to also be some system of accountability to produce what people want, right? And there are different ideas historically among anarchists on how to do that. Some people think in terms of you need, residence assemblies, not just the workplace assemblies, but you need also organizations in neighborhoods. And so you can see that, for example, in the program of the Spanish anarcho-syndicalist movement in the 30s, where their program called for both what they call free municipalities, which would be based on resident assemblies in neighborhoods and villages. And then there would be together larger regional federations of those. And in their program, they said these are the organizations where people would articulate, develop their proposals for the kind of public goods that they would want produced. So like things like education, healthcare, housing, things like that. They would work out the plans there in these assemblies. But the control over the production would remain with worker organizations, which would be rooted in the assemblies and the workplaces. So everything comes back down to the direct democracy of the assembly, so that within one of the characteristic features of social anarchism or libertarian socialism historically is the strong emphasis on direct democracy, on rooting a reorganized social structure in the direct face-to-face democracy of the assemblies. And this is one of the ways in which it differs from the official Marxist political organizations, which don't emphasize that. And so if we're going to create, and you can in fact define libertarian socialism as a kind of generalized self-management, in the sense that self-management meaning control over the decisions that affect you. So that in all the various aspects of society, the idea is to generalize people controlling those decisions. So if it's collective decisions in some area, like where you live, where you work, then you have some, way of the people getting together to collectively make that decision. Okay, and so self-management presupposes the direct democracy of the assemblies, but also it has to be able to scale up to society over a very large area, or huge regions, like South America or Europe or whatever. And so there you have to have some kind of system of delegates. And you can then think of delegate democracy as being an extension of direct democracy, differs from representative democracy, which is the so-called democracy that exists today, in the control of the delegates by answerability to the assemblies at the base of the society. And so that's sort of the aim, briefly, is a self-managed society. Then that means that you have to have a strategy that has a chance of bringing that about. And so this is the idea of trying to develop social movements, that have taken organized form, mass organizations, in the areas where the oppressed, where the working class, the oppressed groups are struggling, developing those organized social movements that are also controlled in a self-managed way, so that the rank and file members of them are in control of them. Because otherwise, if they're not in control of their own movement, they won't have a means to ensure that at the end they end up in control of the society. So that if they have, like, the vanguard party is going to, gain control of the state and then implement its program through a state, well then that abrogates self-management. That's not going to guarantee that the people themselves are going to be directly running things. Instead, what we've seen historically is that just simply then generates a new bureaucratic class, so that the working class continues to be a subordinated and exploited class.